put that rock there. Oh. Oh. Where is everything? Okay, I think if I just turn this way. Oh, it's such a mess since the storm, too. Hope I don't trip over another log. Oh. Oh, good. That's the rock outside my house. All right, then. This should just be about the place. Ah! Oh! Somebody there? Someone? Hello? Hang on a second. It's too dark. Oh, this little candle isn't doing it. Let me get more candles lit. All right. Oh, there's a lot of you. Welcome, I guess. Let's put that there. I guess we'll put that over there. Oh, I'm sorry my house is a mess. Everything's a mess these days. Listen, I haven't met you before. My name is Jambres. Maybe you've heard of me. I'm a pretty famous guy here in Egypt. At least I used to be. Till all this mess happened with Moses. Oh, you guys probably don't know. All right, I'll catch you up. Listen, here's what's been going on. This guy Moses just showed up out of nowhere, out of the desert. And he showed up in Pharaoh's court, where I work. Of course I work there because I am Pharaoh's chief magician. I'm in charge of doing lots of things, lots of powerful things that I can do. I can do it because I've got help, from the great gods of Egypt. Did you know we have lots of gods in Egypt? Oh, we do. We've got a god for everything. There's a god for the river. There's a god for the sky. There's a god for the dirt. Oh, we've got many gods, but they all help me. So when I work for Pharaoh, I can do all sorts of amazing magic things and tricks and I can show how powerful the gods are. Well, how powerful I thought they were. Oh, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll explain that in a moment. The point is, I was in Pharaoh's court. And Pharaoh, he's like the biggest god. You know that Pharaoh, we say he's our god. He's like the greatest of all the gods. It's an honor to me to be able to work in the court of Pharaoh. One day, this guy Moses shows up, and I'd heard about Moses. He comes in, and he looked really old. Like, everybody thought he was this strong warrior, and I guess he had been, but now he was old and walking with a stick, and he had his brother there with him, and they came in and said, Pharaoh. I've never heard anybody just talk to the king like that. He said, Pharaoh, I am here because the God of the Israelites sent me. And in case you're wondering, the Israelites? Well, I didn't even know they had a God, to be honest. They're our slaves. They've been slaves for us Egyptians for a long time. So I thought if they had a God, they would have at least had somebody taking care of them. But apparently now they do. And so he sent this guy named Moses, and he says, the God of Israel says, the Israelites are my firstborn son. They're important to me. So you let them go. And I was like, yeah, good luck. This is Pharaoh you're talking to. He's the greatest god of all Egypt. You can't boss him around. And then they even tried to make threats. Moses said, because God says, if you won't let Israel go, then I will kill your firstborn son. I was like, wow, that's a big threat to come in here saying you're going to start killing people if you don't let the Israelites go. But Pharaoh, he wasn't worried at all. He laughed at him. He said, yeah, who is this God? He's not powerful at all. And we were laughing too. We were like, everybody was laughing and pointing at Moses. Oh, if we had only known. Anyhow, so the Pharaoh said, get out of here. And furthermore, since you think you're going to help the Israelites, I'm going to make it worse for them because I am the greatest God in Egypt. So now, Israelites, you're our slaves. You already work for us, but now we're not even going to give you the things you need to work for us. We're not going to give you the tools you need, and you're still going to have to work for us just as hard. And they got mad at Moses because of that. Yeah, they were like, Moses, why'd you do this to us? Oh, I could hear them complaining all over the place. God left us here in Egypt. He abandoned us. He's not even powerful enough to help us. And now God sent this Moses just to make more trouble for us. Which, at the time, I thought that was good. I was like, yeah, that's right. You guys need to start knowing who's the powerful gods around here. There's Pharaoh, and then there's Ra, the god of the sun, and then there's Hapi, the god of the Nile, and there's Heket, the god of the frogs. Oh, there's so many gods. I told you, we have gods for everything. But they came back in later on, Moses and Aaron, and they said again, let the people of Israel go. What do you think Pharaoh said? No. He said, "This God of Israel has no power at all. You can't tell me what to do." And then Moses said, "I will show you he has power." And he had this stick in his hand, and maybe you know what's going to happen next. He took the stick and he threw it on the ground, and it turned into a snake. Now, some of the people in the court were nervous about that. They're like, "Oh no, a snake!" But not me. You know why? Because I am Jambres, the chief magician, and I know how magic tricks work. See, magic tricks, here's how we do them here in Egypt. We don't actually create anything. We've tried, but we can't actually make snakes. We can't actually make anything, but we can fool people into thinking we do. It's awesome. These gods of ours, they help us like deceive people's minds and get them confused. So when I saw that snake on the ground, I was like, "Your Majesty, just a moment please. I can make a snake." So I took my stick, my favorite walking stick, and I threw it on the ground. And then I did some magic, and I called on the gods of Egypt to help me, and the people all got confused in their minds, and they were like, "Look, they made snakes too." And I was so proud. I was like, "Yeah, see, King? We showed them. Our gods are just as powerful." Except that then a little problem happened. See, then their stick, Moses' stick, the one that turned into a snake, came over and ate up my snake. Well, whatever looked like my snake. My stick that was on the ground, it ate it up. And then Moses picked up his snake, and it turned back into a stick. But my stick wasn't there anymore. He actually swallowed up my stick. It was my favorite walking stick. I didn't know how he did that. That meant he had made a real snake, not just something that was fooling people's minds. I started to get a little bit nervous. But the king wasn't. Our king, well, I don't know if he's smart. I mean, he's pretty smart, but he's more like he's kind of stubborn. Like, you can't change his mind about anything. He said, "Get out of here. I'm not letting the Israelites go." Moses said, "We'll see you at the river tomorrow." You know why the king goes to the river every morning? Well, because he wants to take a bath, of course. You know, it's part of being a king. You have to look nice. But also because the river is where we worship one of our favorite gods. I told you there's a god for everything, right? This is the god Hapi, not Happy, Hapi. And Hapi is the god of the river Nile, the beautiful river Nile that brings us all the water that we need for drinking and for bathing and for having farms that grow and feeding our cattle. The god of the river Nile is very powerful. But Moses was there. And you know what? He showed us pretty quick. Our god of the river Nile wasn't as powerful as we thought. The king had shown up and he was just getting ready to go into the water and take his bath. He was just leaning down and Moses showed up and said, "King, if you're not going to let the people go, then the God of Israel says, I'm going to turn this entire river into blood." And the king almost got nervous. But good thing I was right there. I was like, King. No, it's fine. It's fine. Let him do what he wants. We can do this trick too. It's just a trick. It's nothing. The king was like, "Okay, go ahead. I'm not scared of you." And Moses took out his stick, and I was worried. I was like, what's he going to do with this stick? Is he going to make it a snake again? But no, he took it and he hit the water. And as soon as he hit the water, do you know what happened to all the water in the river Nile? What do you think happened? It turned into blood. Now, I thought at first it was just a red color. I thought maybe he just had some paint inside of his stick, because that's how I would have done it. I mean, we magicians, we have to use tricks sometimes. That's how I would have done it. But when I reached down and I dipped my finger in the water and I smelled it, it was blood. Blood doesn't smell good at all. Oh! And the king's feet were already in the water getting ready to bathe. He jumped out and said, "Oh! We don't want blood on us. We're Egyptians. We like to be clean." And then I told the king, "Well, king, it's okay, because I can show that our gods are just as powerful as this God of Israel." So I did a little trick. I was like, "Hey, turn water into blood." And I fooled the people, and I was like, "Boom." And I had this water jug over here, and sure enough, it looked like blood too. Oh, it was just red, because I put some red stuff in it. But I was like, look, we made blood. And then the king was like, "It would be a better trick, Jambres. How about if you get the blood out of here? Because I want to take a bath." You know what? I couldn't do it. That's when I started getting really nervous. Because I could do tricks that would look kind of like the power that the God of Israel had, but I couldn't undo the things that he would do. I tried. I was like, "All right, king, I'll make the blood turn back into water." And I tried saying all the magic things and making the magic motions with my hands. And I even tried telling people, "Look over there," and stirring the water, and it didn't work. It stayed like blood. It did. Look, I collected some of it to bring home so that I could look at it and figure out how they made it work. You can look at it and then pass it along, but look at that. It stayed like blood. And that was the water we needed to drink, to bathe. We couldn't do anything. We could dig holes. We did find that if we could dig some holes, we could maybe get a little water out of the ground, and that was clean water, but all the other water we had was turned into blood. And after 7 days of that, not being able to bathe, not having enough water to drink, the cattle were all thirsty, the crops were starting to die, Pharaoh finally said, you know what? Call that Moses in here. And he did. And Pharaoh said, all right, listen. You go ahead and change that water back, and then I'll let your people go. Moses said, no problem. Just like that, he says, no problem. He's like, it was easy. He went back over to the river. He just touched it with his staff. Boom! The water went back. The blood turned back into water. It can't be that easy. I tried so hard, but I couldn't make it change. But do you think that King Pharaoh, our great and mighty God, changed his mind? He did. He had said he was going to let the people go. And now, he changed his mind and said, actually, I'm not going to let them go. Thanks for giving me my water back. And he kind of grinned, and he looked at us magicians and kind of chuckled, and we were like, that's a funny joke, King, except, they could do something worse. I kept thinking about the fact that when Moses had shown up, he said, if you don't let my people go, I will kill your firstborn son. Boy, this was nothing. This was just the start, I thought, and I was right, because you know what happened the next day? Moses showed up outside the king's bath area again. The king was down by the river getting ready to take another nice bath. It had been so many days. Finally, the Nile was back to good, and the king was getting ready to jump in, and Moses showed up again. And he said, so king, still not going to let the people go? King said, no, I'm not. Thank you very much. And then Moses took his staff, and I thought, oh no, blood water again. But it wasn't. It was almost worse. He took the staff, and he waved it over the river, and all of a sudden, a frog jumped out. Now you might think, well, that's not a big deal. I mean, it's just a frog, right? You've seen frogs before. A frog over here or a frog over there, it's not a big deal. But you guys, that first frog was only the first frog of 1,000,000 frogs. It was like every frog in the world showed up in Egypt. They just kept hopping out. They were climbing all over me and all over the king, and they just went running all through the countryside. We couldn't stop them. And you know why we couldn't stop them? Not just because there was millions of them, but also because frogs they're special to us. See, we believe that one of our gods has the head of a frog. That's how we draw the picture of this god. And we call her Heket. And she's got a frog for a head. And so because she's a frog god, we take good care of the frogs. We don't hurt them. We can never kill a frog or chase a frog away or make it do anything. If we see a frog, we have to say, hello, frog, and be nice to it. But it's really hard to do that when there's 1,000,000 frogs all over the place, crawling all over you, and you're just constantly going, hello, frog, hello, frog, hello, frog, hello, frog. And there were frogs in our beds, and frogs in our food, and frogs in our shoes. And everywhere you went, you had to be careful not to step on a frog, because if you step on a frog, you'll make Heket, the god of frogs, angry. So I had to walk around like this all the time. Oh, there's a frog there. Oh, there's a frog over there. Oh, no. Oh, a frog on my chair. It was horrible. Days of frogs. And we kept telling the king, maybe you need to let the Israelites go. Because this is not going to work. I mean, if there's going to be frogs all over, we can't continue like this. And the king said, all right, fine. Call Moses in. He called Moses in. And Moses said, yes, king, what would you like? The king said, you know what I want. Make the frogs, just stop the frogs. Just quit it with the frogs, and I'll let the people go. Moses said, no problem. He went out. He took his staff, his rod. He waved it over the river. And, well, I wish I could tell you that the frogs disappeared. But they didn't disappear. They just all died at the exact same moment. All the frogs were like, ribbit, 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 and they all died. That sounds like it solves our problem at first, except here's a bigger problem. 1,000,000 live frogs don't stink as much as 1,000,000 dead frogs. And now the whole country was covered in dead frogs. Oh! This kept getting worse and worse. Just when I thought it could get no worse, the king said, oh, well, since you left a bunch of dirty, dead frogs all around Moses, I guess I'm going to change my mind. I'm not going to let the children of Israel go. And you know what that means, guys. It means something else bad's going to happen. We started calling these things plagues. That's what we started saying. Oh no, we're having plagues here, and Moses is bringing plagues. Plagues is like something terrible, something awful. And then Moses showed up a couple days later, and he had something in his hand this time. And I'll tell you, even though it didn't look like a big deal, it sure made me nervous, because this is what he had in his hand. I'm going to come around and see if you can figure out what it is. What is that, do you think? Stay in your chair, I'll come to you. Sand? Yeah. Sand? That's all it is, right? Nothing to be scared of. It's actually sand. You're right, it does kind of look like brown sugar, which we don't have in Egypt, so I don't know how I would know that. So, he showed up with just a handful of sand, of dusty sand in his hand, and I thought, well, how bad could this be? I mean, we've got sand everywhere in Egypt. We're a desert country. Oh, wait, if he's going to do something with this sand, we've got sand everywhere. And just before I was able to warn the king, hey, king, maybe you really have to change your mind about this. Just then, Moses said, all right, if you're still not going to let the people go, God is going to take the dust of Egypt and turn it into lice. You guys know what lice are? I'll tell you what lice are. I know very well what lice are because I spent the next 5 days covered in them. Lice are insects. They're about the size of a grain of sand, maybe a little bit bigger. But they jump and crawl around. And when they get on you, they crawl on your skin. And they crawl in your hair. They crawl in your nose and your ears. And you know what they do? They don't bite. They just kind of make you itch. And you want to scratch all the time because there's lice everywhere. All the sand and dust in Egypt was into lice now. And we were all just scratching for days and days. It was horrible. I don't know why I'm scratching now. That already took place. It's just because every time I think about it, I just want to scratch. Oh, it was terrible. And then you know what Pharaoh said? Pharaoh said, okay, well, that's all right, Moses, because my magicians can turn dust into lice too. And I looked at him and said, are you crazy? There's already enough lice around here. Why would I want to make more lice? But the king said, do it. You got to show how powerful our gods are. So I said, okay, king, okay. And now we've got a god for dust and earth. That's King Geb. I mean, God. He's one of our gods. So he's the god of dust and earth. And I said, all right, Geb, oh great Geb, turn this dust into lice. And you know what? He couldn't do it. I forgot to tell you, I was able to create some frogs, or at least pretend that I could make frogs, when the frogs were around, because the king asked me to do that. But when I tried to make the lice, I couldn't make them. That's when I started knowing we were in way over our heads. I told the king, I said, mighty Pharaoh, listen, this is the finger of God. God of the Israelites, he's powerful. We need to just do what he says. Pharaoh said, get out of here. Pharaoh was itchy. Everybody was itchy and scratchy. And after a few days of itching and scratching, Pharaoh finally said, all right, Moses. You guys know how this goes, right? Yeah. Moses, take the plague away. Moses would say, okay. You make the plague go away. And then what would Pharaoh do? He would change his mind. No, I'm not letting the people go. And the same thing happened the next time. Next thing we had was flies. Moses sent a whole bunch of flies. Flies everywhere, all over the place. In your mouth, in your nose, in your food. You couldn't sleep because there were flies crawling on you all the time. Except something was different about this as well, guys. Because see, this is my house right here. Yeah. And my house is really close to where the Israelites live. They live in Goshen. That's a part of Egypt. It's really nice. In fact, it's one of the nicest parts of Egypt. And I can see their property right out of my backyard. Right looking out my back window and looking over my backyard, I can see the land of Goshen where the Israelites live. And so far, when there have been frogs and there have been lice, do you know what? The one thing that made me happy was that when I had frogs all over me or lice all over me, I could look over there into Goshen and I could see the Israelites had them too. And I was like, ha ha, well, at least your God's not powerful enough to protect you from the plagues that he's sending. Ha! You made me feel a little bit better. But do you know what happened with the flies? Well, the flies were crawling on me and I was feeling fed up and I thought, I'll make myself feel better. I'll go look out the window and see how Goshen is covered in flies. That's right. I'm going to look and see how there's black, biting, itchy, flying, swarming flies all flying around through Goshen right over. There were no flies in Goshen. It was like there was an invisible wall, you guys. Like I could see flies flying from my house and they would start flying towards Goshen and they'd get to right about here and it's like they hit an invisible window. Boom! And they turn around and fly back into my property. The people of Israel weren't getting the plagues anymore. Then I knew we were really, really sunk. Because if the God of Israel was powerful enough to do things that our gods were supposed to be in control of, and to do things that I couldn't undo, and to do things that then he could protect the Israelites from, Egypt was not going to make it. I tried to tell the king and he wouldn't listen to me, even through the next few plagues. Oh, guys, it was terrible. I'm not even going to tell you all the details, but it was terrible. First of all, the cattle, all of our sheep, and all of our donkeys, and all of our horses, and all of our cattle, our cows, they all got killed. God said, I'm going to kill them all if you don't let them go. And sure enough, they all got sick. Just one day, they're all standing out there in the field. Moo! Clonk! And they all fell over dead. Now there were dead animals everywhere. And then after that, we got sick. Moses said, King, you changed your mind again after the cattle? Fine. God says, you're all going to get sick with boils. Do you guys know what boils are? Well, have you ever had a pimple on your skin? Like a little blister? Or a little callus? Maybe a little blister? Well, boils are like blisters, except they're the size of oranges. And they're all over. From the top of your head to the bottom of your feet. You can't even do anything. Everything hurts. And you can't sit down because you got them on your rear end. You can't stand because they're on your feet. You can't lie down because they're on your tummy. I just spent all day just kind of standing like this. Oh. Oh. Ow. Oh. You know what else? When we had infections and diseases on our skin, that meant that we weren't clean. And that meant that we couldn't go to worship our gods. We couldn't go to the temple to worship the God of medicine to make us get better. We couldn't even go and talk to Pharaoh, who's our most important God, because we were sick on our skin. So everybody just had to stay home. Just, Finally, well, you know what happens. Pharaoh said, make it go away. Moses said, okay. God took it away. And then Pharaoh said, I changed my mind. You guys, this is getting worse and worse. Then after the boils, then God said, all right, look out. We've got a hailstorm coming. And I heard about this. I heard about it. I heard, oh no, there's going to be a hailstorm. That's not good. You guys know what hail is, right? Hail is like ice. But it's not like the little nice little piece of ice that's in your drink to keep it cold. It's like big pieces of ice. And when those big pieces of ice fall out of the sky from hundreds and hundreds of feet up in the sky and they hit you on the head, they hurt. In fact, they can kill you. And as soon as Moses came into the king's court and said, there's going to be a storm and there's going to be a lot of hail, I thought, oh no, I gotta go hide under a rock or something. But then Moses said something. And you guys, this was really, really different. And I thought, this God of the Israelites, He actually is, He's looking out for us. Here, you'll understand what I mean. Because Moses came in and he said, all right, a storm is going to come, but it's not going to come right away. It's going to come in a couple of days. When it comes, it's going to kill any animals that might be outside. It's going to kill all the fields outside. It's going to knock down trees and plants. Anybody who's out working in the fields, it's going to get killed. But if you go out and get your animals and bring them inside, and you keep your people inside, you'll be safe. Can you believe it, you guys? Even though we, the Egyptians, have been time and time again saying, no, we're not going to do what we said. And Pharaoh kept saying, I'm not going to let the people go. God was starting to give us warnings. He was trying to help us avoid the worst parts of this plague. I couldn't believe it. It's like this God of the Israelites, even though He's powerful and He can seem kind of scary at first if you're not obeying Him. I mean, it's like He also loves us. He wants to protect us. I couldn't believe it, you guys. Well, I went out and got my animals. Oh, you might be wondering where we got our animals from since they had all died a couple plagues ago. Remember that? Well, we went and got some from the Israelites because theirs were all okay. And the king said, go take some of those slaves' cattle. So now I'd gotten a couple more donkeys again to pull my plow. And I had a couple of sheep out there. And I was like, I'm not leaving those out in the field. I went out and I got them. And I brought them in and I put them inside my barn. Sure enough, the worst hailstorm ever came. You guys, let me show you the size of those hailstones. Look at this. Can you imagine a hailstone this big? Could we maybe separate these two? Can you guys imagine a hailstone this big?
Come and sit over here in front of your desk.
Look at this.
Come here.
Here, come down here. You can look at this stone. And then pass it on down.
Here, have a seat right here.
Here, have a seat. Look at that. Can you imagine a stone this big falling out of the sky and hitting you on the head? Clunk. Ow! That would hurt. You can look at it and pass it on. Those hailstones, they destroyed everything. Most of my buddies, the other magicians, the priests, they just sat out there watching what was going to happen. They had even put all their cattle out in the field on purpose saying, we believe that the God of storms is going to protect us. But not me, guys. I knew the God of the Israelites was more powerful than any God of storms. And so I stayed inside. And do you know their cattle? they got killed. Their fields, they got knocked down. Their trees, they got broken. Some of them had servants that were working outside. They got killed by hailstones hitting them on the head. It was terrible. And Pharaoh even, he got scared after a bit. Please pass it along. And Pharaoh, he even got scared after a bit. He called Moses and he said, Moses, all right, you got to stop the hailstorm. You got to stop it. Moses said, okay, I will. And you know what? I thought Moses was just going to quickly say, okay, stop the storm, and it would stop. But Moses, he went outside. There was still hail falling, you guys. There was still hail the size of these rocks coming down out of the sky. And Moses went walking outside. He said, I'll go outside the city to pray to God. That Moses must have had faith, because I wouldn't have gone out there for nothing. These gigantic stones were falling, and I was watching out the window. They were just falling all around him, but they didn't land on Moses. He went outside, and he lifted his staff up. He prayed to his God, and the storm stopped. I went out and I grabbed one of these to keep, just to remind me. Because now I knew this God of the Israelites, he was the most powerful ever. There was no way that we were going to be able to win this battle. And I told Pharaoh, I said, listen, Pharaoh, listen, we really need to just do whatever they want. Pharaoh said, nah. Oh, you guys, I can't believe it. This Pharaoh's so stubborn. I went out to look at my fields afterwards, just after the hailstorm. You know what I found, guys? We have 4 kinds of fields. We have fields that have wheat, fields that have corn, fields that have flax, and fields that have barley. Now, which ones of those would you like to eat? Does anybody like eating corn? Yeah? Okay. Does anybody like eating wheat or things made from wheat, like bread, pizza, cupcakes? Yes, okay. But most of you probably don't eat flax. You know why? Because flax is not really something we eat. We use it to make clothing in Egypt. That's what my clothes are made out of flax. And the barley, well, I sure hope none of you have been using the barley, because you know what we use the barley for in Egypt? We make alcohol from it. So the wheat and the corn is what we need to eat. The barley and the flax, we don't really need that to survive. And do you know what we found out? When we went out in our fields and walked around, the wheat and the corn fields had not been knocked down. Only the barley fields and the flax fields had been knocked down. You guys know what I realized? I realized that even though God had sent these gigantic hailstones, and he warned us they were coming, then he only made them knock down the things that we don't need to eat. He was giving us another chance. That's when I realized, you guys, these plagues, they aren't really plagues, they're second chances. God keeps saying, hey, I'm trying to help you guys change your mind. This is another chance, and another chance, and another chance. It's like he was giving us do-overs. We kept messing up, and God would be like, all right, I'll give you another do-over. Let the people go. Just do what I'm asking you to do. Oh, you guys, I wanted to do it so bad right then. I went to Pharaoh, I said, Pharaoh, please, let the people go. Pharaoh said, no, I'm not going to do it. Tell Moses I changed my mind again. Uh-oh. Guys, I didn't know how much more of this we could take. Moses came back in, and I was thinking to myself, what else can get destroyed now? There's hardly anything left. Moses said, well, there's going to be another storm. I thought, oh no, hailstones again? Moses said, nope, it's going to be a storm of locusts. You guys know what locusts are? No. Oh, I know what locusts are. Here, I found a dead one. I kept it just so you can see how big it is. Look at this thing. It's like a gigantic grasshopper, and they eat everything that's green and growing. They came in hundreds and thousands of millions. And I told you guys that some of our fields got destroyed, right? No, but do you remember that there were some fields that hadn't been knocked down? The wheat and the corn fields, remember? The ones that we needed to eat? Well, now they got destroyed because we didn't listen to the previous warning. The locusts came and they ate up all the wheat, all the corn, all the plants, all the trees that had been knocked down and landed on my house. All the leaves got knocked off of them, got eaten off of them now. And I told the king, I said, King, you got to let him go. The God of Israel is too powerful. The king said, okay, fine. Call Moses in here. When Moses came in, the king said, all right, you can go. Moses said, all right, we're going to go. The king said, just out of curiosity, who all is going to go? Moses said, well, everyone's going to go. The men, the women, the children, all the cattle, the oxen, everything is going to go. And the king said, only the men can go. Leave the women and children here. I'm worried they would be hurt in the desert. Do you think he really cared about them? No, he just wanted to keep them like prisoners, to keep the men, so that the men would come back later on. He didn't want them to go free. Moses said, nope, we're all going to go. And the king said, nope, Then in that case, he got his stubborn face again. Oh, you guys, I was so upset. The king got stubborn again. He said, in that case, you can't go. So there. Moses said, all right, then there's going to have to be another plague. And guys, that's how we ended up in the plague we are at now. This plague of darkness. Usually this candle would be so bright, you could see it like 100 feet away. But this darkness that we're in, I've been tripping over everything and stubbing my toes because it's like the light isn't working. Not only is the sky covered over in black, but it's like there's a blackness that just comes all into our houses. We can barely see it. It's like it's hard to breathe even. You can almost feel this blackness in the air around you. It's terrible, you guys. And I'm so scared because you know what that means? It means that God is stronger than the second most powerful Egyptian god, Ra, the god of the sun, the one who makes our sun come up every morning and puts it down at night. Sun, but now I don't think so. I think it's the God of the Israelites who controls the sun. And this darkness, I don't think we're going to be able to do anything, guys, about this. Oh, by the way, in case you were wondering, I looked out the window to see if maybe, I could see anything. And I can. Over there in Goshen, it's bright and beautiful in Goshen. It's like God can just make it be dark in one place and bright in another. You guys, we Egyptians aren't going to make it through this. I told the king, you got to let him go. You got to let him go. I was just at the king's palace. Guess what happened? Moses showed up. The king said, okay, you can go. Moses said, are you sure? The king said, yes, the men and the women and children can go, but you can't take your animals. And what do you think Moses said? Moses said, no, we're all going to go. The king got mad and he said, well then, fine. If that's what you say, get out of here. I don't ever want to see your face again. Which I think is kind of funny, you guys, because it's so dark right now, you can't even see anybody's face right now. But the king said, get out of here. And if I ever see your face again, I will kill you. And Moses said, all right, you're never going to see my face again. And he left. And guys, you know what that means? It means that as soon as this darkness is over, there's probably only one plague left. Because Moses said, the king is never going to see his face again. And I know what the last plague is going to be. You guys want to know what it's going to be? Well, remember when Moses showed up? And the first time he came into the court, he said, the God of Israel says, Israel is my firstborn son. And if you don't let my Israel firstborn son go, I will kill your firstborn son. I think that's the last plague, you guys. I think the God of Israel is going to kill anybody who was born first in their family. Like the oldest kid in every family is going to die. And that makes me really scared, you guys. I mean, that means God is so powerful. He's in control of all the gods of Egypt. He rules over all of them. They're nothing. They're just fakers. They're probably like, just like evil angels. And you know what else, you guys? It means that God's more powerful than Pharaoh. Pharaoh's been proud and stubborn. Pharaoh's been thinking that he's able to tell God what to do, but he can't. He can't. And he's been so stubborn he hasn't wanted to do anything with those second chances God keeps giving him. Oh! The lights came back on, you guys. Oh, man. The darkness is gone, and that makes me even more scared because I know that last plague is going to come. I don't know when it'll get here, but guys, you know why I'm so scared of it? Because if it's going to kill the oldest person in every family, the one who was born first, well, guys, I was born first in my family. I'm the oldest of all my brothers and sisters, and that means it might happen to me. Oh, I wonder if there's any way that maybe I could convince their God to just change his mind for me, because I believe him. I don't want the people to get hurt. I want the Israelites to go and maybe take me with them. I gotta go talk to Moses, you guys. Maybe there's a way. Maybe this God, maybe he's merciful too. Oh, I hope so. I hope so.